A console versus a gaming PC in 2022. Better yet, a next-gen console versus a gaming PC right now. Are you automatically at a disadvantage because of console? Is it really worth it to buy a whole gaming computer in 2022 when these next-gen consoles just go up to 120 plus frames anyway? No fooling around. Let's get right into it. Thank you guys for watching the video today. If you feel like watching me while I'm live, check out my other content, link in the bio. First thing I want to say is I'm 28 years old. I grew up on the Nintendos, Xboxes, PS2s, 3s, 4s, whatever the heck we're on now. So I feel like I've played around on all the consoles, and I've purchased a gaming computer when I got a little bit older. So I kind of have a good feel about where things are now, as well as I also kind of understand the computer aspect of it, meaning like the FPS, input delay, things like that. So if you didn't know, the highest frame rate before these next gen consoles were only 60 FPS, and on a computer you could go up to 240, really 360 plus, way better than the old gen consoles. But now it's a lot different because a lot of these next gen consoles and a lot of these games go up to 120 FPS, and a lot of these PC players that I know can't even maintain 120 FPS in the game that they're playing. We'll get into a little bit more detail about that later, but first let's go ahead and talk about the PC players now. Yes, there's absolutely still an advantage if you're on PC all day and night, as long as you have a large amount of money to spend on it. And I mean at least $1,000-ish. At the end of the day, if you have a lot of money, you can't really do anything more with your console in order to make it better, but you can always upgrade a PC and always do things to make it better, faster, more responsive, a lot of things like that. Plus, there's a lot of extra settings you can turn off in game, and a lot of things I'll go over here in just a moment. But what's the catch? You need a lot of money. In my opinion, if you don't have at least around $800 to $1,000 to spend on a computer build, including the monitor, keyboard, whatever you're using, you might as well stick with these next-gen consoles around $400 to $500. Way better deal. That being said, if you really want to experience these next-gen consoles for what they're supposed to be, you have to get a monitor that can run 120 FPS or more, or you might as well just be playing on a TV in an old gen console, because that's all it is without the monitor to go along with the new gen console. The biggest thing is the refresh rate of the display itself. That means you can get a nice piece of hardware like a PS5 or the brand new Xbox or a really nice gaming computer, but if you plug it into a display that doesn't have a fast refresh rate to keep up with that new hardware, you might as well just be playing on the old gen, because the old gen didn't even matter anyway what you were playing on, because most displays only refresh at 60, but these monitors refresh at about 120 or up to 360 plus, and some that are coming out are even faster now, which is crazy. Okay, awesome. So you bought a nice display and you also have one of those next gen consoles. At that point, is your setup just as good as having a gaming computer? Well, not really. The biggest thing that matters is what game you're playing first off. And that kind of brings me back to my point a little bit earlier about how much money you have to spend on your gaming PC. If you're playing a higher end game like Call of Duty Warzone and you're turning up the graphics, if you didn't spend enough money on your computer, it won't be able to maintain over 100 FPS in a game that's kind of high end like that you have to run. And on the next gen consoles, you're able to maintain a much more steady frame rate, because that's what the developers make the console for, is smoothness, and they're not going to have it jumping down and up and just boosting for performance. But once again, it matters what game you're playing. In some games, the game engine only runs at a certain FPS or output anyway, like multiverses. If you played that, no matter what, it's at 60 FPS. If you play on the console, next gen, you can't make it go anymore, so it really doesn't matter what you play on at that game at all. Everyone is on the same playing field when it comes to something like that. But let's keep on going back and forth here. The biggest thing about PC on other games is the in-depth of settings you can turn off. For instance, specific types of shadows, anti-aliasing, all kinds of things that you wouldn't want in a game anyway, like motion blur as well. And on console, they just don't give you those options because they're trying to make it the most smooth experience possible, and a lot of people don't understand those settings anyway who play console. The customizability is way better on PC, no matter how much money you spend. So I think the next question should be, what kind of system do you have? And it matters if you say PS4, PS5, or gaming computer. They're three different things. It's not just console versus PC. A lot of these console players are just as good, if not better, than a lot of these PC players, and the skill level just doesn't matter. The gap is closing smaller and smaller and smaller with every generation of console that releases. Even though the PC side is innovating a lot, it doesn't matter unless you can spend about $1,000 or more, which you might have, besides all the in-depth settings that PC allows and console doesn't. I really hope they improve upon that upon the next generation. So there's always pluses and minuses on every side. I'm not going to talk about all of them. No matter what you play on, you're probably better than me. Have a good rest of your day, guys. Look at that. The dynamite's crazy. Oh!